Deep conversations are starting.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Deep Conversations by Breath Hub. I have a lovely guest today, dear Mira. She's one of our breath workers in our app as well. How have you been, Mira? All good?
Everything's been good, yes.
Yeah.
Breathing and living, which is
Yeah.
the main thing, and taking my deep breaths. And I'm happy to
Great.
be one of your practitioners on your Breath Hub
Lovely. And
podcast.
I hear
Sorry,
that,
Breath Hub app.
great. And I hear that you're leaving to India. How exciting tomorrow for a workshop or a retreat.
I'm
I'm gonna
actually
let
doing a
you,
little
by the
bit of
way,
work.
yeah, by the way, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself in a couple of minutes, but I first want to hear about India. I got so excited. So,
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
yeah.
no. So yes, I'm off to India tomorrow, which is very exciting. I usually go once or even twice a year, and I haven't been since 2 years ago now. So just over 2 years
Okay.
ago. So it feels like a long time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited. It sort of feels like I'm returning home after a long time. I
Okay.
love India. And I am doing a little bit of work, but actually I go there for my spiritual replenishment, to reconnect with people I know. I have a lot of friends in India, and I'll be doing a talk and workshop at Soho House Mumbai as well. So I'll be doing a little bit of work and
Beautiful,
dipping my toe
beautiful.
into wellness.
How exciting. Okay, so having said that, exciting times ahead for you, would you like to first introduce yourself and tell our listeners about your history, what you've been doing, and how life has been for you for the couple of past years?
Absolutely. So I have okay. So I am an author. I've written two books. One is a cookbook, a best-selling cookbook called Saffron Soul, focused on healthy Indian vegetarian food from India. And the second one is on Ayurveda, called Prajna Ayurvedic Rituals for Happiness. I'm also working on a third book. I also have a chai brand, which is called Chai by Mira. I have 5 flavors. They're all online, and I've got gift boxes and other things. It used to be a cafe. So I used to actually have a cafe in central London, which was called Chai by Mira. And then it went on as an online brand after lockdown. So lockdown was quite
Yeah.
transformational for me in that sense. My work really changed. And I would say it's for the better. I really have enjoyed taking a step back from sort of the havoc and craziness and madness of running a business where you have to be there all the time, to running a business which is sort of which is online, and really focusing on how to make that work. And it's been really interesting. But at the same time, I've trained as a integrated health practitioner, and I've trained in breath work, in Kundalini, but also in pranayama. And so I love breath work. It's something that's helped me for many years. And I've been going to lots of Kundalini classes. My yoga practice has really changed to breath and Kundalini practice, which is why I wanted to train in breath work and really combine all the different things that have helped me to hopefully help others in the future and really bolster my own knowledge.
Yeah, it's really amazing, right? What happens in the body and the physiology and the psychology at the same time when you change your breathing, due to
Absolutely.
the
It's so
chemical
transformational.
change in the breathing. So for anyone who is new to breath work, would you like to tell us a little bit about your first experience with breath work? Like, how did you come up with that, and how did you start? How was your first experience like? Because I have a very interesting story with my first experience, and I know people's first experiences with breath work is usually amazing. Like, whoa, what was that? So, how was your experience, your first experience with breath work?
I think breath work really came to me, and I didn't think of it as breath work, but what happened to me is when I started doing a lot more yoga while I was based in Dubai, going through a very sort of traumatic, lonely period of my life, and was on the brink of divorce. It was yoga that really helped me and saved me. And I started doing lots of yoga, and in those yoga classes, the breath that I used, i.e., the Ujjayi breath, the victory breath, the breath that you use with the nasal breathing, which sounds almost oceanic. I realized that when I started breathing like that and slowing my breath down off the mat, i.e., during the day, during the night, when I was feeling upset, anxious, on edge, about to sort of have a bit of a breakdown, I realized that it was that breath that calmed everything down for me. So when I was in front of people or with anyone and I suddenly felt that pang coming up and I didn't really want to release it at that time, I could almost, and I'm not saying it's good to hold it in, but I found it really powerful and almost like surprising that I could suppress it for a little while by just breathing really deeply. And over time, that slowed me down. No, that calmed me down. And so that was my first experience with understanding the capacity of the breath in just making me feel better when I was going through a hard time. I would say then what happened is, yes, the breath helped me during those years, but later on, when I started going to Kundalini yoga classes, it was during those classes and when I came out of those classes or in those classes that I realized that the breath can take me to so many different levels. One day I might walk out of a class and feel, completely zapped of energy, tired, about to wanting to go to sleep. And the next day in the Kundalini class, I would come out feeling so elevated, like I was almost on drugs, and or just, have an outpour of crying during the class. So it wasn't about the emotions that were churning inside me necessarily, but it was about what the breath was doing to me. And that's when I realized that different techniques of breathing allow you or take you to different to different states.
Yeah.
They can elevate you to a really, really energetic state that's almost drug-like, and they can take you to very sedated states of utter calm.
Yeah. So for anyone who would basically like to explore their psychology, their, I think consciousness basically, because I believe breath work, of course, it changes our chemistry, it changes our physiology. Due to that, it changes our psychology. But I think it triggers many levels on our consciousness. So it's kind of like we start tapping into different layers in our consciousness. So if anyone is interested in that trip, of tapping into different levels, and like you never know what to expect with breath work. Now you reminded me of that as you were, telling your experience with it. It's like with breath work, you never know about the experience. Like each time it might be fully different. One time you're in tears, one time something else happened, one time another thing happens, and it's just amazing. It's kind of like this wise entity giving you whatever you need at
That's
that
exactly it.
exact time
That's
and
exactly it.
exact
And I think
space.
when you actually said that it gives you exactly what you mean, what you need, it reminded me of actually an earlier memory of breath. When I was in university, I did a course with Art of Living on breath. And what I didn't realize at the time is that it gives you what you need. So I did this course, and one day when I was about to sit an exam, I woke up in the morning, or I was, no, that's it. I was revising all night, and I thought, let me sleep for an hour before my exam because I was revising all night. And so I did one of the breath works from, my course, thinking, oh, this will energize me. But what it ended up doing is it gave me such intense sleep. I didn't wake up for my exam. So that was probably
Yeah.
my first lesson when it came to breath. I probably realized the power of breath then.
Yeah, so before you, I had another podcast with a very special individual called Neil. He's also a teacher, mindfulness teacher, and a lawyer. At the same time, he does a lot of corporate trainings as well. And we were speaking about truth, like the importance of truth, the importance of connecting with ourselves, and how holistic health and holistic well-being actually depends on truth. So that's why I think breath work is a very special tool. Breath is a very special tool. It's not a tool, actually. It's kind of like this. I mean, for me, it's kind of like this wise guy, very old, with I mean, if you ask me how did breath look like, I would tell a guy like, I don't know, maybe Gandalf from Merlin, like this strange mystic individual, very wise and very different. And yeah, so we were talking about truth and how breath and breath work and meditation and mindfulness brings you, to your truth. And I think what you're saying is breath actually has that truth inside of it. So it's like the moment you start breathing, it doesn't matter what you've been doing before that. It doesn't matter, whether you did meditation or not. In a few minutes, it just gets you back into your center and connects you with your truth. I think that's the most amazing thing about breath work. It's like in a couple of minutes, it's like with breath work, you can't lie. With breath work,
Mm-hmm.
breath will show you how you feel, how you're really thinking, what's going on with your life. Are you overwhelmed? Like you said, are you tired? Whatever you're experiencing, really, really experiencing, it's gonna come up. And breath has a certain way of showing us that, which is, yeah,
That's really
amazing.
powerful. Yeah, I like that. Connecting you to your truth and bringing out the truth within you and
Yeah,
making you realize what it is that you need.
yeah. And what has been the most interesting experience you had yourself or with your students during your, breathwork classes or classes? What was the most interesting experience?
Um, so I think when I did a lot of breath work during my course, I I had a major sudden backache, and I was realizing that actually, maybe the breath is actually bringing out something that's internal, and manifesting something that has been lying deep seated in there. And that was really fascinating because, working through that and breathing through that. And also for me, I think understanding or realizing the power of the breath has made me realize that I can breathe through pain as well. So I'm not talking about deep, intense pain where I'm meant to take a anesthetic and I don't, I don't. But I'm talking about the sort of pain where, like period pains, for example, being able to use real deep breaths to breathe through it. Breathing through anxiety, shifting mind patterns just by breathing better. Now that I do a lot of talks and I give a lot of classes on Zoom and online and perhaps hopefully in person going forward, I feel like breath work, especially over the last 2 years, has taught me to really and given me the ability to really slow down and realize that taking breaths and pausing between sentences. I know it sounds really basic, but it's something that I didn't do before. I rushed through things because I thought, oh, I need to get all this out. And then I'd stumble. But actually taking deep breaths and taking a moment of pause and understanding that that pause is necessary has been really, really powerful. So I think breath has just taught me a lot of things internally and has given me the power to breathe through pain, through anxiety, through moods, shifting mood patterns and brain patterns, and slowing me down.
Yeah, I think what you said is very interesting because pause, like I do sometimes forget because I'm also a businesswoman and, a lot of things going on during the day. I sometimes forget that pauses and immediately I realize I take steps I would probably not if I paused and took a breath. So it's kind of like I still remind myself to just, wait a second, before any big decision, before any, business decision or decisions in life, maybe a decision, a travel decision, maybe, any decision, it's like I remind myself to just stop and take a few breaths in and out because breathing has that power. It's like even with like 4 or 5 deep breaths, we deeply connect with our truth. And then when I do that, the times I do that, it's kind of like the decisions I make, the steps I take, the wisdom over there is very different. So I think what you say is just amazing, and I think an amazing tool to use as well for anybody who's listening to us right now. Just pause and just take a few breaths before you decide on anything in life, especially of course not things like what am I going to eat for breakfast. Yeah, but
No, but it's
even
also
even
things
like
like
that,
that
yeah,
because actually
yeah.
cravings, when you get cravings for a snack or
Yeah, yeah.
something sweet and you feel like, oh my God, I need it, I need it, I need it. And it is an intense craving. Like, I get it. And I've had food issues all my life. I'm not saying I've conquered that, but there are times when I just breathe through it and I'm like, actually, maybe I don't need that right now. Maybe I need some
Or
water,
just breath.
some warm water with ice or just some breaths. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I do that all the time. Of course, I give into craving sometimes. And of course, I'll go for some food when I don't really need to have it. But I've got better. And I feel like sometimes, and again, I want to do this a lot more. I can't say I do it all the time, but I do want to use the breath. And I think the breath can help to allow us to pause and think, let me let this pass. And then actually, I don't need that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I totally agree, and I'm also working on
And
reminding
addiction in
myself.
addiction in every way. It's not just food. It can be any addiction, any sort of craving of any sort. It doesn't have to be food.
Yeah, it's very interesting how breath can take us beyond any kind of addiction, actually beyond ourselves, right? It's like with breathing, we can go beyond ourselves, we can go beyond the ego, and we can take wiser steps, and we can tap into different levels of consciousness, which is amazing.
And shift energy from being provoked and getting angry, shift energy from that to being like, okay, let me just reflect for a second. I'll get angry in a minute. And by the time that minute is finished, the anger might subside and you might become a little bit wiser about what you want to say.
Yeah. So yeah, it is a great tool for us to go beyond our immediate reactions. And I think that's kind of like that's the basic thing in life. It's like whenever we react,
Mm,
it's not wise and we don't get the results we want. It's like I've been
mm,
reading on it, and I've been also teaching this. Like whenever we are not in tune with ourselves, whenever we are not in, tune with our truth, and whenever we are not centered, we either react, or we take wrong actions, or we don't act at all. So it's like whenever
mm.
we are not fully connected with our truth, whenever we are not mindful and centered, what we do is we either react, reaction, no action, or wrong action. Those are the three things. But whenever we are connected with our truth, whenever we take that pause and breathe a few times and connect with ourselves, and then we take the right action, which is, I think, the beauty of breath work. It's gonna bring you back to your roots, back to your reality, back to truth, and help you take the right action. It's just beautiful. Yeah. As we're
Yeah.
as we're moving further with the time, and you are getting ready to go to India tomorrow, packing up and stuff. I have one last question, which is kind of like a very important and special question for me because it connects us with our bigger why. So, what would you like to, because it's your like bigger why, what would you like to see happen in the world, and what would you like humans to really get and understand before you die?
Sorry, what would you like to understand
No,
before you
what
die?
would you like humans to understand, see, or get? What would you like to see happen in the world before you die?
Gosh, that's such an interesting question. No one has ever asked me that before. Very interesting. What would I like for humans to understand before they die? Off the top of my head, I would say connection with nature and compassion for fellow beings, whether they're human or not.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. I love
That's
it.
sort of a
Yeah.
succinct. That's sort of a succinct answer, but actually, obviously, it
Yeah, but
goes
it's like
far
it's
beyond. I think
probably.
love, all those
Yeah,
things.
I think probably it's just in your deep, deep core that why. And
Yeah, I think connection with nature is really important because walking in nature, even in the city or out of the city or somewhere else, it just reminds you of the it puts things into perspective and reminds you of something other than what's going on in your
yeah,
life, and reminds you of the beauty of this world and the beauty of the creator of the world. And actually, it's mesmerizing. So never lose that sense of awe. Don't lose that sense of magic and that wonder. And that will always remind you that things are okay, and the flower will bloom tomorrow and the seasons will come and go, and in the same way our seasons will pass, our moods will pass, we'll go from happy to sad to happy to sad. And actually it's just the way that we can transition through that it makes life more beautiful. And secondly, compassion teaches us, if we're compassionate to people, to animals, to everyone around us, that is a massive thing. And I think that comes from a place of love. So I think compassion really covers love.
Yeah, yeah, compassion, and also nature. It's just, I fully agree. Nature is an amazing tool, again, a wise and magical tool for us to get back to, what this is all about. Thank you, Mira. And thanks for being with us in this episode. And thank you for sharing everything you shared. I hope you have a great time in India. I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful to speak to
Yeah.
you and remind
Me
myself
too.
of the power of the
Yeah.
breath.
Thank
Just
you.
before I fly off, I'll be
Yeah,
taking those deep breaths on the flight.
Great. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
I hope
Take care
so.
and
Definitely.
enjoy.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.